Good morning, YouTube. Today I am going to take you along while I make pizza rolls. You'll only need 3 main ingredients, and the other ingredients, which are spices and salt, are optional. You'll just need flour, cheese, and tomato paste for this recipe. So here we go. 4 cups of flour. This is what I'm going to be adding to it. This is 1 cup of warm water plus about a teaspoon and a half of yeast and a tablespoon of honey. Now you could use sugar as well, but you just need something in there to help proof that yeast. Let it get fluffy and bubbly, and then pour it on in. This recipe is a lot like cinnamon rolls, but savory instead. So where you'd have butter and icing, you're going to put tomato sauce, and instead of cinnamon, I guess it's going to be cheese. But the only difference would be is that this is going to have 2 tablespoons of olive oil added to it because it's a lot more like a pizza dough. So pizza dough needs a little bit of olive oil. And I'm going to just mix this up. I'll be right back. So we've got the dough now. What I did was just added 1 more cup of water. So if you're making, my recipe has 4 cups of flour to 2 cups of water total. That warm cup of water with the yeast plus 1 more cold cup of water. If you want less, you can just cut the recipe in half and go 2 cups of flour to 1 cup of water. So when you're dealing with this dough, it's pretty much 2 to 1. Okay, so next I'm going to let this rise just a little bit. Just gonna let it rise a bit. It's just pizza dough, so it doesn't have to rise like, the way you're making bread. So I'm covering mine with the parchment paper I'll be using on my cookie sheet. So I'm just gonna use it here just to give it a little bit more warmth and moisture. And I'm just gonna leave that for about 10 minutes and we'll come back. While the dough is resting and rising a little bit, I'm just making some tomato sauce. Now I always buy this from Costco. I always buy tomato paste, and it actually works out to be cheaper than buying tomato sauce, and this way you could get organic and it's still cheaper. I also buy organic tomato paste because it stores much smaller in your cupboards. And you could just turn this into tomato sauce by adding water, right? So really you're just paying for water when you get tomato sauce. So 1 can of tomato paste. And then I re-added some water to this to make tomato sauce. About 1.5 cans refilled of water into here. And now I have my tomato sauce. Of course, it's a very basic and plain tomato sauce, so I'm going to add some spices, and I'll show you what they are in just a second. So I added a teaspoon of oregano, a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of salt, and a teaspoon of sweetener, or you could always add sugar if you want it. I have some cheese sliced here. I'm going to say it's about 1 cup. Could be a little bit less or a little bit more. I'm not sure. It's about 150 grams of cheese, and the only reason it's not grated is because I keep forgetting to buy a cheese grater. It's not going to be a problem for this recipe because I'll just spread them out flat over the pizza dough, and it won't make a difference once I've rolled it up. But for anybody else trying to make this, you might want to grate it. It would just be a little bit easier to roll up the dough. Okay, so the dough has been left to rise for 10 minutes or so. It's just soft and easy to work with right now. And I do have a rolling pin, but I just prefer to put the ball of dough on a flat surface and just press it out in a cookie sheet. The cookie sheet's underneath the parchment paper. So just press it out with my hands until I get it to the size I want it. I just find it easier that way, but either way, use a rolling pin or you can use your hands. And I'm just gonna set aside a little bit of flour here, sprinkle some over top, just to make it easier to remove after. And it's a little tiny bit sticky, so that's also why I'm doing this. So I'm gonna flip this over and do the same on the other side. So I put the parchment paper on the counter so that I have an easy working area, and I just put the tomato paste or tomato sauce on here, about half of it on here. And you'll save the other half for when you're eating it. It's like kind of like a dip or to put on top of these rolls once they're ready. So this is half of the tomato sauce, and I'm just spreading it on. Okay, so now I'm just gonna put the cheese along one side here. And the cheese is not going to cover the entire surface here because I didn't want to go overboard with the cheese. It's supposed to be, you know, economical. So this is good enough for me. Again, if you grate this, it's going to go a lot further because you'll be able to get all the surface area, but I don't really mind because we're going to roll it up right now. So just a second and I'll show you. I'm going to take it. It's a bit hard with the camera. I'm going to go see if I can find my tripod. But I'm going to take it by this side and I'm going to roll it all the way up. And cheese is like, you know, it's easy enough. So I'll just roll it over it and go all the way to the end. And I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so here we have it. And I think you can see here. I'm just going to roll it up, kind of like faster the better type of thing. Okay, this could probably be done neater, but you get the picture. And so that's it. So it's rolled up, you can see. So it looks like on the side. Can you see that? Yeah. And then, so what I'm gonna do is you can either use a knife, which I find is quite messy when you're making cinnamon rolls or any kind of rolls. This is dental floss. I usually use thread and usually can find it, but I don't really remember where I put it right now. This is dental floss. It's black because I think it's infused with charcoal or something, but it's all good. So you just hold the string and put it from underneath and just make a crisscross with it and then pull on it. And it cuts through real nice and easy. See that? And it's a great trick. It's so much easier than using a knife because I find the knife tends to stick on the dough. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut these through and then I'll put them on my cookie sheet. Actually, I'll do that right now. Like that. So then I'm just gonna place these guys on the parchment paper. A little bit spaced away from each other because of the fact that they are going to rise a little bit in the oven. Well, they'll rise a good amount actually in the oven. There it is. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the rest of these up and I will show you what that looks like on the tray before I put it in the oven. Okay, so here they are. It ended up making 11. I could have taken my time. I'm in a little bit of a rush, but normally when I use this dough for making cinnamon rolls, it makes actually about 12 or 13, usually, baker's dozen. And, but this time it made 11, but as you can see, some of these are cut really thick. And so some of them will be bigger than others, and that's fine because depending on somebody's appetite, they can have a smaller one or a bigger one. So it's going into a preheated 375-degree oven, and it's going to go in there for about 25-30 minutes. I will show you what it looks like when it comes out. As a side note, a very easy, lazy way of drying out herbs is just put it in something that's like kind of got an open bottom to it. This is a strainer, and just leave it near your stove so that it will air dry over a couple of days, because when you have your oven on and your stove on, when there's warmth around it, the herbs are going to dry out a lot faster. So yeah, that's just a really easy, lazy way. I just washed, this is cilantro, so I just washed it, drained it in the same strainer, and then left it out. And it's halfway dry now, but I had it in the fridge for a few days, so I'm just going to let it dry out all the way, so then I'll have some nice fresh dried spices, dried herbs to cook with. Okay, so here they are. It's been about 22 or 23 minutes and I think they're ready. So I'm just gonna turn off the oven and let the heat finish it off for another minute or two. So here they are 25 minutes later. And yeah, they look pretty good. Yum. I would start checking on it after 20 minutes and see what they're like, but anywhere between 25 and 30 minutes is what I think it should be. Mine was on the bottom rack, so they cooked a little bit faster. But here it is. So if you give it a try, let me know. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And thank you for watching. God bless you.